Nice to see you, and so we just got our button off to
Still dinner
small
out.
blind is 25, your big blind is 50. Brian, please, shuffle up the deal.
Shuffle up the deal, boys. I'm gonna make a fold. Yeah, very loose fold.
Some days at work, there's simply a lot of folding while making second best hands when you do get involved. It's annoying to say the least, however, when you've been on the stretch of a bad run, you'll begin to find yourself starting to eagerly anticipate the next two cards to become the hand that flips it all around. If I can just keep my confidence, character, and attitude in check, I'll be ready to take full advantage when this tide shifts. The way the cards flopped in this hand, I thought that this may be the beginning of good things to come. We're on the button with one middle position limper and look down at 6-7 of clubs. I raised to 10. Now the big blind 3-bets to 40. I've been watching this guy play for quite a while and he seemed to love to 3-bet from any position and then he'd bet out on most flops. He was into the game for quite a bit and still appeared to be in full gamble mode, so I wasn't too interested in folding to this particular player. The original middle position limper folded and I make the call. Now my mistake in this hand is that I did not take notice of the big blinds stack before making the call. He had roughly 140, which is not deep enough to go after with 6-7 of clubs. So in the face of further aggression, we are most likely going to have to fold out of the hand, unless we hit this flop pretty hard. And hit the flop hard we do. For not having a pair, this is about as good as it gets. If he has a bigger pair, we are now a favorite to win. The only hands in his range that would be ahead of us at this point would be a flop set or a higher flush draw. And as I alluded to before, he doesn't have enough chips left, so we are not folding in any case. And just as expected, our opponent pauses for a second and says, "I'm all in." As I throw in chip to signify a call, he says, "You must have me. I just have a small pair, I didn't think you had anything," and he shows me pocket fours. This was a bit of a surprise because I now realize I have more outs than I thought I did. We have 21 outs and should be roughly a 70% favorite. And the turn, Queen of Hearts. And the river, Jack of Spades. This is not how I saw this working out. And I swear if one person says that you had too many outs, I'm just gonna, there it goes. Next hand. Before jumping into this one, I'll give you a little background on the original raiser. She's a woman who has played one other hand previously, and in that hand, there were 3 limpers in front of her. She comes out raising far too much. Everyone folds, and as she's raking in the ones of dollars from the pot, she proudly shows her aces. Now she's not been involved a single time since, and it doesn't take a lot of focus to notice that. In this hand, we have a straddle on the button, we're in the hijack, and she open raises out of early position for 35. There are very few hands that we are going to play against her. We look down at one of them, however, aces. I re-raise to 90, action folds to the button straddle. He sits up stoically, looks at her, looks at me, then looks at the dealer and says, "I'm all in." Now she is visibly disgusted by this. She's looking at both of us, she's hemming, she's hawing, she's sighing, and she finally begrudgingly and forcefully folds, obviously with a big pair, as expected. We're in the dream scenario. We toss in a chip, make the call. He has a little over 400, we have him covered. The flop runs out rainbow, low cards, 8-5 deuce, the turn a 9, the river a 3. Now, I'm pretty sure we just coolered him. We turn over the aces, fully expecting to be pulling in this decent pot. Then he sheepishly looks at us and says, "I'm sorry," and turns over pocket fives for a flop set. I'm going to be real honest. I lost my cool a little bit. I may have said some things. I don't recommend it, but my mouth was moving before I realized I was talking. Anyway, he did say he was sorry, so yeah. Moving on. All right, this next hand I want to show you reminded me a lot of a hand that I played many, many years ago during one of my very worst bad runs before now. At the time, I was starting to look at Subway and think, I wonder what it's going to be like to have to make sandwiches for my friends, you know. And I was worried, I was scared. It was not going well, and it had been a while, and I just felt like I could no longer win. Then I get involved in this particular hand on this particular night. I'd been there most of the day into the night, and I had been winning. And I was really happy to finally be building a stack. And there's one other guy at the table that we had very similar amount of chips. We end up tangling in the following hand. I flop top set, he flops middle set, and the money is definitely getting in there when the bottom card pairs the board, and by the river we get it all in. Before cards were turned over, I really had this just belief that I was going to turn over my boat and he was going to say, oh, I have quads, because I was just used to seeing pots go that way. And I was in the twilight zone, but I did win the hand, and it was being pushed my way in multiple waves of chips, as a matter of fact. And as the dealer pushes the final chips my way, he just kind of leans over to me and smiles and says, "Welcome back, Tony. Welcome back." And I remember this intense sense of relief and just realizing he's right. It's over. This is it. It's finally going to turn around and things are going to make sense again. And that's what this next hand reminded me of, that things are finally going to make sense again. And they have. After that, suddenly I started getting actual playable hands, and I started winning small pots and then medium pots and some larger pots, and I was having winning sessions day after day, and have come climbing out of the hole and now going into the profit margin. So bills are going to actually get paid and life is good again. All right, this is the hand I've been talking about. It's pretty standard. We are short-handed, six-handed. It's becoming the wee hours of the morning. It's a dead button on my left, and action folds around to the cutoff, who makes it 10. I look down at pocket tens and choose to under-rep my hand. I just make the call. Everyone else folds. We go heads up to the flop of 4, 7, deuce, all spades. He pauses for a bit, then checks to us. We're going to continue our under-repped story and check behind. The 9 of clubs comes on the turn, and he says, I'm going to bet it. And he bets 10. We have the 10 of spades. We also most likely have the best hand in my mind. So we call, and the river is another deuce, a red deuce. And he pauses for quite a bit before he finally checks. Now, I'm very confident we have the best hand, and I'm hoping for some sort of value and choose to bet 1/3 of the pot. He sees that we're going for value and says, you think I can call? After a lot of deliberation, pats his hand to the felt saying nice hand, and folds his hand face up. Red aces. Now, I'm not what I'd consider superstitious necessarily, but once this hand played out, as odd as it was from beginning to end, I literally felt an energy here. The winds of change began to ring true, starting with this hand.
That's true.